Hello everybody, how's it going today? Glowplasma231 here, back again today to talk about Tenmaku Cinema. Chapter or scene, as they call it in this series, or chapter or scene 19. This chapter is titled Rain in Shibuya. So, this is the 19th chapter of Tenmaku Cinema, and if you don't know, we have 2 chapters of Tenmaku Cinema left after this one, because it has gotten axed in the Shonen Jump magazine. So today we are doing day 2 of our little initiative to build up so we can talk about the final Tenmaku Cinema chapter whenever it releases on the official release date. And to do that, like I said, I'm just covering every single chapter like I normally do, but just in a very faster pace because, well, I got really behind. But, so Tenmaku Cinema 19, again, Rain in Shibuya. Last time we had the really big reveal of the movie making team getting everything done in at the beach. They got all the scenes filled they need to get filmed, and now we're coming back, and as Karai got into her house, her mother was there, and her mother was like, oh yeah, I got home from, I think she was in America maybe, I really forget if there was an actual place she went, but either way, she's like, hey, I got home early, and hey, you didn't have any filming going on today, so where were you? Do you care to explain? And we start off this chapter probably like a few minutes ahead, as we see that Kurai has already come clean about the shore, and her mother is pretty much just like, oh, so in other words, you secretly decided to be in your classmate's independent film. And she's sort of just looking at the script. We see her like sitting at their dinner table, right? And Kurai's got like the script in front of her, sitting like opposite of her mother, and her mother's just like, what a lack of professionalism, right? Because as we know, Kurai's mother is such an antagonizing force in her life, really restricting what she can and can't do and her limits of acting. And because of this, Kurai sort of has problems with her, and that's where the problems came out with filming the shore, with the whole idea of not being able to let go of your mother, even though because pretty much the whole plot of the shore that we've seen so far, right? But pretty much as Kurai's mother just continues on to explain, she's just like, we've been carefully crafting a strategic image as a proper actress of this country. Appearing in a cheap movie is completely unsuitable, let alone a student film. Do you think you have the opportunity to appear in major movies? Why do you disappoint your mother like this? But Kurai then is just like, hey, but I haven't neglected my work, right? And her mom gives her, like, the glare of, like, 1,000 stares, just, like, looking at her, just like, yeah, that's right. But Cry is just, like, pretty animated about this. It's like, hey, I'm sorry I didn't tell you, but in all my shoots, I've been doing good work, and it's been a really good influence on me. And this script is amazing. If you'll read it, you'll understand, right? And I have to say, Kurai's mother brings up a really good point here. You must be joking. A movie written by a junior high school student? Yeah. That is really fair because as most of the people think, they think Hajime wrote it, right? Tenmaku doesn't exist to them. So, yeah, of course. Yeah. I get her point fully here, right? But Kurai's just like, hey, please, we just have one more scene to shoot. Just please let me finish, right? So, yeah, the crossing in Shibuya in the rain, which aptly is the title of this chapter, so I wonder what's going to be happening in this chapter, huh? But pretty much, Kurai's just like, hey, please let me finish. But Kurai's mother's just like, do you know how hard I've worked for this? And you want to ruin everything. I did all of this for you, Himeki. Was I wrong? Why don't you understand? Like, really just showing that mentality of, like, she, like, a very demented love that she sort of has for Himeki, right? And as all this just keeps going on, she sort of just understands, and we sort of just cut away from this whole conflict as we go to all of the boys of the movie-making crew, right? We see Hajime, Bido, Shino, and Akitsu all just walking down the road, and Hajime, or it may be Bido, I think it's Bido from what we see, he's just like, man, there's no rain today. He only needs to shoot that pedestrian crossing in the rain. And that was Bido who was saying that. And Chino's just like, huh, is everything all right, Hajime? You don't, like, look right. As Hajime's just like, well, it looks like Kurai hasn't seen my text for the past few days, right? And Akitsu's just like, well, she's just probably really busy. I mean, she is a famous actress in our country after all, right? And as all of the movie-making team is walking by, there's a man dressed up in like a full suit and with like just all of the suit, like a suit and tie, just sort of standing there. And as the kids are walking by, he says, "Hey, you're Shinichi, correct?" And dude just looks at him, and Hajime's just like, "Huh? Who are?" But then he realizes who it is. It is the butler for Karai, the person, or the chauffeur, I guess would be the better word. The one who always drives her around and everything, right? And all the movie-making team see this, and it's sort of understood that they all recognize who it is. And it's this big deal of, okay, why is he here? If he's here, I mean, something important has probably happened. We get that the chauffeur pretty much explains, is like, hey, Himeki's mother confiscated her phone. I wish I could help somehow, but I am really sorry, right? Showing that, yeah, he knows, or he has to know about this whole movie-making thing. Karai obviously trusted him enough to tell him. So it's this big idea of, well, what are they going to do now? If Karai's mother is back and knows about the whole situation, are they going to be able to finish the shore? And we see that as the chauffeur sort of drives away, that's the uneasy feeling that sort of goes around the entire cast or the entire club, as they're just like, well, what do we do now? Well, what can we do? And eventually Bito's what he just says, or Shino's is like, but does this mean that we can't actually finish the shore? But Hajime sort of just breathes in and breathes out. He's just like, well, that's how it goes. It's nobody's fault. The fact that we did everything we did as amateurs is already incredible as is, right? And he's just like, yep, there's no really problem about that. I mean, we did what we can. Like, obviously acting a lot more happy than he actually is about the situation. So we're just trying to give the others that air of like, it's fine. It is what it is, right? And as all this is going on, we get our first Tenmaku showing up of the channel. As the ghost in the room is just like, Hajime, are you okay? But we see that, Tenmaku said to Hajime, is like, hey, Hajime, is everything alright? But Hajime just is like, hey, I'm really sorry, Mr. Tenmaku, but I couldn't really make it work, right? And what ends up happening is Tenmaku's like, hey, when you make movies, these things happen. It's not 100% unusual. And as all of that just keeps going on, we sort of just get a lot of shots of just Hajime now going through his daily life. We see him at home writing down, I don't know if it's studying or if he's writing movie stuff down. He's at a store buying manga, it looks like, or stuff like that. And we even see that he's just watching a movie at home. And we get an entire page of this, as it's just Hajime just going through his life. And eventually, he's walking down the road, and he goes right under the big pedestrian crossing. That's the term. But the big pedestrian crossing in the rain. And he looks at it, and we sort of tell that he's a little sad about it, but he just walks away from it, sort of like, yeah, it's over now, but we're going to do whatever we can do. As he's sort of walking away, as we now cut to a moving car, and we see that it is the moving car with Himeki and everybody in it, right? We see the chauffeurs driving it around, and we see there's like two other businessmen in suits. There's also Kurai and also Kurai's mother here in the car too. So pretty much like these suits guys are just talking. After that meeting is finished, we'll meet the rest of the staff, and you'll say a few words of greeting. Do you understand Kurai? And she's just sort of looking out the window and just sort of like looking off to the side, as all of a sudden it just starts to rain. And Kurai sort of notices, and she's like, oh, wait, it's raining, right? And we even see the chauffeur, who sort of has this like nervous look on his face as the rain is just coming down. He's just like, the forecast didn't call, or that's what Karai's like, the forecast didn't call for rain today. As we look out, and she's in Shibuya, and she just looks around, and she's just like, hey, I'm sorry, mother, but I really want to make that girl happy, right? As we see that she runs out of the door and just runs off, right? Which is a little surprising, because if you're worried about like your daughter who you don't want going to film movies, like not doing that, wouldn't you like not put the child lock on the car? I mean, I don't know if Japanese cars have child locks, But either so, what I really take from this is that the chauffeur knew it was going to be raining and knew he was driving through Shibuya to sort of help the whole everybody out, because I take it that he sort of cares for the movie, which is actually pretty cool, because not like the chauffeur really matters, but he has a good lasting impact in the last 3 chapters of this series, right? But as Karai runs away, we see that she is running up, and she runs up to the pedestrian crossing as it's just raining, right? And she's just like looking down, and she's like, oh, that's right. Why would they be here? I mean, it's just rain. It's not like it matters anymore. As we suddenly see Hajime, who is standing on a bridge with Akitsu, Bito, and Shino, right? And they're all there. And he's like, it's Karai, she's here, right? And Hajime's just like, see, I told you, didn't I? I knew she would be here, right? And we even see Bito, who's like looking at his watch, or his imaginary watch, is like, yeah. Just a few seconds ago, you weren't sure about that at all. I just look at that, right? It's pretty funny, right? But anyway, the entire cruise is like, Himeki, it's a miracle. Anyway, we need to record a scene, right? As we sort of just see, like, everybody just standing around like, hey, she's here, well, let's get everything taken care of, right? And so pretty much what we just see here is we see the entire prepping for the scene. We see that Karai gets dressed and gets the big dress on. We see that Akitsu is like, all right, we'll use a pin mic in your clothes to record the sound. So if you could please just tape it to your skin, right? And Hajime's is like, if the fabric makes too much noise, we'll just dub it over later. It won't be that much of a big deal. So she's just like, don't worry about anything. Just do your thing. Show the emotion in the scene, right? As she's just like, okay, that's right. That makes perfect sense, right? We even see Bito's now got his hair dye in to play Shimada as everything is going. And can I just say, in a few scenes ago, whenever like we saw everybody, like whenever Bito was looking at his imaginary watch, we see he's got a can of stuff in his hand. So I don't know if he's just like using spray paint to like color his hair, or if like that's a product like a spray on color thing. But either way, there's this whole big idea of just going through and filming the scene, right? As we pretty much see that Hajime's just like, okay, roll the film, which I feel like he said like 8 different things like to start the movie in this series, like ready cameras, or like action, cameras ready, action, or like roll film. I mean, it's just like, okay, roll film is like an interesting one I've never heard of before. But as it just continues, we see that Karai starts to say her lines, and we see Shimada in the background is sort of standing there, and Nagi says is like, the whole time I knew that always playing the role my mother wanted was pointless, as we sort of get like a mini flashback with Karai's actual thoughts on her mother, as it's pretty much just like, listen, Himeki, when mother was little, I also wanted to be an actress, but I couldn't do it, so maybe you don't have the talent either. It's mother's fault, I'm so sorry, right? And we see a young Karai who's just like, oh, I promise. And it's like, I'll try my very best. Please, Mama, don't cry, right? And she's like, from now on, Mother, I want you to be an actress for me, right? And it's this big idea that where Karai her whole life has sort of been doing this for her mother and not for herself. So it's like a interesting just look on her character, right? I don't know how to break it down any further. This will sound more intelligible. But we pretty much get the whole note of cutting back to the present, and Karai's just like, now I can finally say it. Goodbye, Mother. As I guess she shows some emotion here throughout the filmmaking process, and while it is sort of like a semi-powerful scene, it doesn't really work too well in the manga, I'll be honest with you there. But pretty much as it all just happens, right, Hajime's just like, cut, and Karai looks over to Hajime, and Hajime is just like sticking a thumbs up, just crying, and he's just like, we're all good. And we see Karai starts to tear up and cry as all of them, Bito, Shino, and Akitsu all continue to cry too. Just like, we finished filming, and they're all just like, okay, that's a wrap. As it finally seems, as soon as they finish that up, yeah, it finishes raining, so it was pretty much the perfect amount of rain they needed, right? But then, on the last page, we get some establishing shots of just time moving forward. And there's a sign on the door that says Team Yukio. And we see a hand banging on it, right? and we see the door open, and we see the director assistant Minori open the door, and it's like, oh, why, hello, well, what are you guys doing here, right? And we see that Yukio turns around, it's like, oh, it's you. Well, this is unusual, as he turns it around, and who else would it be but Hajime and Kurai. And that's where we end the chapter off with Tenmaku Cinema chapter number 19. So this chapter was really good, I think. I think at a few points it really suffers from the whole idea of, yeah, this series isn't really long for this world. It doesn't really have too much time left. By that, like, I specifically mean some of the moments when, like, the very beginning of the chapter, where, like, I feel like Kurai would have tried to explain the movie, but instead of just cutting to, okay, so you secretly decided to record a movie with your friends, it sort of happens, right? And all that's pretty good. I feel like it may have been something where Hajime and the crew said something to the chauffeur, but I'm not really sure there. But as everything just keeps going on, this was a very solid chapter, even with everything that was going on. And then Kurai just suddenly running away to go film the movie with everybody, doing a great scene, and then, yeah. So, as we saw earlier, who do Kurai and Hajime want to show the movie to first? They want to show it to director Yukio. So, that's where they are. So, next time, we'll probably see director Yukio's ideas on what the movie is and how it is. So, yeah, this is Tenmaku Cinema chapter 19. Again, it was titled Rain in Shibuya. Next time, I will be back with chapter 20 of Tenmaku Cinema. But before we actually end the video there, if you like this video, hopefully you'll mind like and subscribe and drop in a comment if you think any of my ideas were bad. So, that's going for me. But I also have plenty of other Tenmaku Cinema videos on the channel. So, if you think you would like a Tenmaku Cinema video, again, like, I don't know, you want to listen about chapter number 13 after this, I got a video on it, so you can go check that out. And with that, I don't really have too much else to say. So it was a really good chapter, even though all the shortcomings with it of Tenmaku Cinema. And yeah, I'll see you guys next time for Tenmaku Cinema chapter number 20. This is going to be Glowplasma231.